Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Jay Dixon. Jay, excited to have you on the show.
Hey, Gresham. Super happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking some time out. Love all the awesome things that you're doing. And of course, before we jump into the conversation, I want to read a little bit more about Jay so you can hear about some of those awesome things. And Jay is a seasoned expert at the dynamic intersection of sports and business. He boasts an impressive record as an entrepreneur, having founded 3 successful companies, actively participating in the sale of over 50 businesses of varying sizes. Jay's expertise ranges from supporting research initiatives to providing strategic guidance for business owners. In Jay's most recent endeavor, he established successcoach.com, an elite accelerator tailored for athletes who've left their playing days behind. In the program, Jay seamlessly combines mindset strategies utilized by elite CEOs with a practical playbook to facilitate a smooth transition of athletic talents into prosperous business ventures. Jay's own journey as a student athlete began while playing Division I football at the University of Nevada, where he played defensive end and appeared in 3 bowl games. Notably, Jay has received recognition for business excellence in venture capital and private equity from Columbia Business School, where he is currently pursuing his MBA, another layer to his multifaceted expertise. And I love everything that Jay's doing. One of the big things I always usually talk about is I love sports, and I always feel like there's such a synergy between sports and business. So I love everything that Jay's doing. I'm guessing he definitely believes the same. But one of the things that really kind of stuck with me when I was, preparing for this is he said 90% of former athletes at the collegiate and professional level suffer from an identity gap once they retire from their sport. And I really love that he's writing his book, The After the Game, where he writes about the untold struggles athletes go through once they put their playing days behind, while they're also detailing a practice playbook where the athletes can learn how to use their skill and navigate that success that they want to have in the business realm. So, Jay, excited to have you on the show, my friend. Are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
I love it, man. I'm as passionate, and I love to hear your passion for this as well. So let's rock and roll.
Let's rock and roll. Let's make it happen. So I guess to kick everything off, let's rewind the clock a little bit. I know I touched on it, but let's hear a little bit more on what I call your CEO story. We'll let you get started with all the awesome work you're doing.
Yeah. And thanks for having me. So my journey began, and we talk about sports. My journey began at 7 years old when I put on a football helmet, and that became my identity. At the time, I didn't know, but I ended up playing a Division I football, University of Nevada, and then that game ended. And for me, it was a tough time. It was a 3-year journey where I couldn't figure out who I was, what I wanted to do, and I didn't have a team, coaches, or a playbook to go after. And so I hit that identity gap, which I write about in the book, which came out earlier this week. And for me, it was I was on that extreme barometer of that identity gap. So I was in the hospital, and I couldn't figure it out, right? But for some folks, some great athletes, it's, hey, my best days are behind me, right? And they're always looking for, where am I going to get those juices flowing again? And that was my journey. So we talked about sports there, and Gresham, like, you can, you have that passion too. I mean, I was up every morning watching Sports Center. That's what I did every morning, and then playing ball in the afternoons. And so from the business aspect, after that little journey of that identity gap that I hit, I got a corporate job in corporate America, and I thought that was going to cure my apathy. And I'd say I filled it in a bit for me. I got a promotion quite quickly and led a new business unit in downtown LA for a publicly traded company. I mean, it was quite the feat, as a young man to do that. But I still couldn't find, what the goal was. Where's the championship? My potential feels like it's being untapped. And so ended up on the other side of the country with a great partner and started a company. And Gresham, I didn't know how to start a company. I didn't know what to do. I just saw a hole in the market and said, let's go. And it was an air conditioning company.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just fixing air conditioners. And fortunately, as I look back, that was a perfect industry for me to utilize those athletic skills.
Mm-hmm.
So through, God's journey or whatever it may be, it took me through that route. And then, I didn't know you could sell a company, right? I had no idea. And then an investor came in and offered to buy the company, a gentleman who was in his mid-40s and done really well in life. And so I like to tell people I got my MBA on the street, right? And he taught me so much about how to buy and sell companies. And we partnered on another company, and then we sold that together. And so it was like, wow, I'm really learning that game of business.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, the last one before Success Coach, Founded an M&A firm here in New York. I'm in New York City, and it grew quite rapidly. I want to say the firm to date's brokered well over 300 deals, and so we put together a great system to give back to entrepreneurs out there to help them sell their businesses. But as I've digressed and really wanted to pursue significance versus success in life and really help other people, that's where I've landed today with this book and what I do now, and giving back to what you said. Those athletes and that identity gap, which is a real thing, and we dive into the neuroscience and the data behind it, and we're not offering the cure, but I think we're offering a cure for it. So that's where I'm at today, and appreciate the question.
Yeah, I appreciate you and sharing your journey. I think so many times, you don't see all the behind the scenes. We hear, of course, the successes and all the opportunities you've been able to have. But one of the things that really, kind of resonated with me, you said that word identity, and especially that identity gap and what happens. And one of the questions I really loved is like, what's that next championship? And I think as you're going through those transitions or things that happen in life, you're always asking like, what is that next thing? Like, how is that going to fill me up and do all those things? And I think especially for the athletes that you're working with, it's probably having that awareness on what that journey looks like. Because I'm a big sports geek as well, and I think that one of the things that I heard someone say is that we're all kind of playing a child's game. It just ends at different times for different people. Sometimes you get,
Yep.
the people that are playing professionally for 10, 50 years, but they're still fairly young when that happens. So I imagine a lot of people don't have awareness around like what that looks like, what that journey looks like. So that's why I love that you're bringing so much knowledge, awareness, and of course the tools as well for those people to succeed.
Yeah, yeah, and look, identity. CEOs have identities, right? They become a CEO, and that's their identity. And for them, when it ends, do they hit an identity gap? Sure, right. The difference is the athlete identity for the majority of folks is built in those formative years. So I talk about myself,
Mhm.
7 through 24 years old, right? That's who I
Right,
am,
right.
right? That becomes who I am, and so that thing sticks with you. And for a lot of us, it's a lifetime,
Mhm.
and we've learned so much in the game that translates beautifully to business and CEOs, and the data is quite clear in what you learn in the game and how it translates to business success. So I think we've got a real formula here to help a lot of people, and get some great CEOs back out there in the world that have great potential and can really lead teams and change communities as well. So yeah, I really think we have a formula for success for a lot of people here.
Yeah, and that's why I appreciate everything that you're doing. I was thinking so many times we don't really, the athletes may not realize the quote unquote transferable skills that could transition towards business and set them up, for that success. So I really want to, mention that I do appreciate what you do, because I think so many times we sometimes don't realize our superpowers, our opportunities, things that we can do that are sometimes right before us, and how that might transition, that might transform over to something else. So I love everything that you're doing. So I wanted to drill down a little bit more on hearing about that formula, hearing a little bit more about how you're making the impact and how that process looks. Could you take us through a little bit more what that looks like?
Yeah, yeah. So absolutely. So um, I've always tried to find the game of business, right? That's been my key. Once I got out in the world, where's the game? Where's the game?
Mhm.
Okay, the game of business is growing and selling companies, right? Let's go to the private equity game. That's the game, and we can make that seasonality. So what I do, and successcoach.com, and we talk about it in the book as well, is we take former athletes through empirically backed mindset techniques. And I partnered with a Harvard psychologist, top of her game, that consulted with some of the biggest and best on peak performance. So, and we translate those athletic skills into the business environment. So you got to start with the mind. Mind's
Mhm.
number one, and then I take them through the highest rate of success. So I'm not a champion of startups. I'm not a champion of it because the success rate, especially for athletes, is quite low. 9 out of 10 people fail. It's a great, and I love ideas. I love all that. I'm a startup fan. However,
Mhm.
remember, I'm trying to solve this identity gap and unleash potential out there. So there's two routes to be an entrepreneur. You can start a business or you can acquire one. And entrepreneurship through acquisition is something I've been doing for quite some time. And
Mhm.
I've seen a lot of these deals, and then going back to school and through my relationships, I was able to make these skills investable. Right. So how do you invest in humans? Right. Because I'm trying to make a change. So these folks go through my course and they got to pass my test, and they come out with a thesis on what they want to buy, but they got to pass my test through it. And it's all, built online, a lot of resources. And once they do that, so we've got their mind on who they are. We know personas, who they are. We want to be able to invest in humans. And now we want to know what's their dream and what's their synergy to go acquire a company. Then we work with my investors and help them. And I've got my M&A team, and we go out there and we find that dream company. We put them in those roles as CEOs, surround them with a team, an operational advisor, and a peak performance coach. So they've got a team environment up there, and we drive success. And I tell people it's a 5 to 7 year journey. Let's gamify this thing. Sometimes it'll be shorter, sometimes it might be longer, right? But we really want to drive success and get these people in those roles where they can leverage those soft skills they built in sports. You can't teach
Mhm.
it. You cannot teach it. I can teach you the technical skills of operating a business. And if you've got all those soft skills and you perform at a high rate, you're competitive, you're resilient, then learning those technical skills, you're just gonna have to lean into that, right? Stay up a little
Mhm.
later. That's what I did. The first company I started, I didn't know what books were, right?
Yeah.
I downloaded QuickBooks and I learned it at night. I stayed up all night, and then I figured out P&Ls and all that. And so, anyways, that's the 10,000 foot view. And really, for me, it's affecting lives. That's all I count. I just want to see people that have that potential in them. I want to leap them into success. And in our world, you have to make those things investable to make it scalable. So I've made it investable as well.
Nice. I love that. And, definitely having that 10,000 foot view. And I was also thinking of the 10,000 hours of like the journey that you've been on and how you've been able to kind of distill that down, of course, with your partners and people that you work with to be able to provide that formula so that it can help people succeed. But I really love the fact that I think so many times we can get boxed into like how to dip into entrepreneurship, how to get into entrepreneurship. And I think we don't sometimes realize that there's a tremendous opportunity to be able to acquire businesses, to of course do that investment, the mindset, all those things that are huge to be able to increase your likelihood of success, but also realizing that you don't have to have a startup to be able to get into entrepreneurship and have success. You can do it in so many different ways. So that's why I appreciate you again bringing awareness to what we sometimes can box and pigeonhole into one way to do things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the market is vast, right? So if you don't have the next big idea, look at the market. And through our course, we show that it's sure you've got your boring businesses, which are great, but there's some very niche companies of people making money in America and across the world that, man, you can put some creativity on these things and they're super fun to go after, right? So, and you're gonna have a higher rate of success. So the thing's already cash
Yeah.
flowing, it's got a team, and when you get into those rooms and you start doing deals and you're attempting to acquire a company, it's the soft skills that are going to win, right? I've sat in between so many deals, and I've had folks come in that were highly quantitative, top notch of the school, top notch of their class, wanting to buy a company. And I've seen it time and time again where they come in with numbers and they're too quantitative, and sellers have said, "Get that person out of here." It seems like a money greedy thing, right?
Yeah.
So while the money's important in these deals, we also and we get there. We also find those sellers that believe in their legacy and
Mhm.
leaving something good out there. Well, we'll find a way to make the financials work, and we always do. But we also like to leave, like I said, we like to find sellers and partner these folks that really believe in these folks as well, and want their culture to remain intact and their legacy to live on, right? So so the soft skills athletes, my tribe, I mean, the data is clear that they've built these skills. So I've just kind of reversed the formula versus, you didn't have to go to Harvard Business School to do what we do. So
Yeah, I love it. You get to reverse engineer that, and I think it's so valuable because I say often we forget about the human aspect of business and the human aspect of life at that. And again, not realizing like those soft skills are transferable and they give you a quote unquote leg up, an opportunity that maybe those analytics based meetings may not be able to kind of see. So I love that you're able to kind of not just say either or, but marry both of those so that you can make that huge impact. Is that a little bit that process and a little bit more of the information, the data, the things you learn is a lot of what you uncover in your book?
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So so the book, I really encourage folks, to read the first 20 pages. If you're an athlete, you read the first 20 pages. a lot of people that endorse the book, some incredible people that have endorsed it, from DeMar Smith, who led the NFLPA
Mhm.
through for 20 plus years, through some amazing times. He endorsed it, and some other great, entrepreneurs and leaders in the sports world. I encourage people to read those first 20 pages, and I've received a lot of feedback like, man, this resonates. This resonates. So we talk about, we take folks through that hero's journey, where the game ends and you don't know what's next, right? And you
Mhm.
feel like your potential isn't being tapped. And then we meet a coach, and the coach works on the mindset and then the process to get folks back into the successful roles and in the business world. And it's really written for myself 15 years ago as a way, thinking about those hardest times as almost I'm my angel back then, saying, look, man, you can be all right, dude. Like, you've
Yeah.
got it all. You've got it all. And the data is clear. You go back to soft skills, Gresham, I can hit on that. The data is clear that
Mhm.
the soft skills are what drive business success. Peter Drucker, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Mhm.
I'm not saying being smart quantitatively is a bad thing. I love
Yeah.
that. That's incredible. There are certain roles in certain companies that you need that, right? And they're high level, and these are great folks. However, I'm dividing and conquering, and my data is extremely clear that athletes have it to drive success. So if I look back, and I've been in a lot of these deals. If I'm sitting there looking to sell my business, I'm looking at these soft skills, right? And these people that can keep it going. But back to the book, a lot of data, a lot of science, neuroscience, that illuminates the athletic education, how it translates to business. And the goal of it, is to inspire people. I heard a good quote. You don't become an author to be rich. All the rich authors are dead, right? Or they become rich, 100 years after they've perished. But
Right.
it's really, for me, it's to leave a message on this world and inspire athletes and folks. Even those folks, I coached some high school football in South Carolina at a school that was all free and reduced lunch, and I got to know those kids. And I'll tell you
Mhm.
what, some of them may not have done the best in English class on Romeo and Juliet, because they didn't know where they were sleeping at night. So I
Mhm.
took care of those folks, and they'd show up to the football field, and I coach high school football, and they worked their butt off, and they showed me some skills, right? That I can't teach. And so it's really even written for those folks. And part of my application to get into Columbia, I said, look, I want this athletic education. um, Look, I've got this business, and this business is going to work out, and we're going to lead these people in successful roles. But the idea is one day to really bring this education all the way down to like all the Boys and Girls Clubs, all the PEs, every school in
Right.
America that says, look, I understand. Like, you need to get an education. You got to do it. You got to be
Right.
resilient. You got to figure that stuff out, right? However, you've also learned a ton in sports. So I
Yeah.
really want to champion people, to understand what they learn in sports and how applicable it is to their business life and how successful they can be if they can translate those appropriately. So,
Yeah, that's why I love, everything that you're doing, because I truly believe that there's so much that you can learn from sports at all stages. And like you mentioned, especially those athletes that have been able to be top tier and to be able to excel, that even more, they've been able to kind of show that and be able to kind of make that plain. Do you feel like that's part of what I would like to call your secret sauce? It's that ability to kind of see that, but also understand that human part. Because I often say, like, as much as we want to know what you do, we want to know why you do it. I almost feel like that fuel to your fire, to everything you're doing, your passion comes out or rings true with me at least, with understanding not just, how important those activities, the soft skills, all those things are, but the why part, the human part, as you said, writing the book and going through that journey. Do you feel like you being able to translate that as part of your secret sauce?
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I didn't know it at the time, right?
Mm,
I didn't realize it, but as I've dove through the data, and I went through 132 studies, interviewed a lot of people in writing this book.
mm,
The data is clear, and in all aspects of the business stuff we're talking about. Um, and one thing that was vindicating for me, and sad to say, was, what else was clear was this identity gap. So
mm,
you've got this incredible education, right? That's always going to end. It always ends for everyone, some sooner than others. some on their own terms, some not, an injury, whatever it is. And there's so much potential, which can be a nasty word. So I'm trying to match that opportunity with potential while filling, a pain in the world. And
Mm,
that's really where I'm going. So when I talk about the why, it's for me, but it's also for I'm coming across these stories, and I went through 132 studies, and now I'm getting people. I got a text this morning from someone that heard of something, and there's these suicide rates even with former athletes across country. It was nationwide in a media thing today, and that I can feel that, man, and it's my tribe of people, and I really want to rally the troops around us and say, look, athletics was a great education. Let's translate it. How are we going to translate it? Here's how, and here's how we're going to do it, and you're going to be successful, right? And then you're going to get back. So I hope it becomes one of those mechanisms that can help change our world.
yeah, absolutely. Which is why I appreciate you again, bringing that up, that human part that sometimes and often we don't hear as much about. But I think that when you have that awareness, frankly, being able to, of course, be able to do the data and deep dive into that. But I almost feel like reality becomes a lot of times what you see and what you hear, and you talking to those kids that may not be in the best areas and have the best opportunities, but also those that are going through that journey. When you hear that somebody has been able to get through that identity gap, to redefine them, all those things, it becomes reality. So you start to realize that, hey, I can do the same. Hey, this is possible. Hey, it doesn't have to be that way. It becomes those realistic things that you start to arm people with, and give them the keys and the opportunity to be able to see that in their lives as well.
You nailed it. You nailed it. My vision, what I do is these folks are going to operate incredible businesses, and they're going to show the success, right? And for a lot of folks, you need to see it, you need to feel it, you need to understand it, and then hopefully it'll affect everyone else. So really for me, I go back to my purpose on this earth is significance. I want to leave a good name, and I want to help a lot of people, and this formula is let's show them. Well, let's show them. I got rallied it, made it investable. Let's go make, wrote a book about it. Let's go, get these folks, and let's get it on national media, or let's get it out there and be strategic and help champion that message. So, if I'm a guy or gal, and I come from a less fortunate background, and look, I was in these rooms and I took care of some of these kids. Javon Kinlaw playing for the 49ers right now. I remember when
Mhm.
he showed up as a sophomore. Remember it. I'd take him home all the time, feed him, right?
Mhm.
And that dude showed up. He worked his butt off for me. And he's been fortunate to get where he is. But like that's where it is. We got to show these examples, and it doesn't have to be the big names, right? I don't need Tom Brady
Yeah.
to come do this, and he ain't going to do it, right?
Mhm.
But he might invest in him because he can say,
Mhm.
"Well, that was my buddy at Michigan. I know that." Oh,
Right.
oh, now Jay, you've run it through my family office and it's checked all that. Absolutely, I get this, right? So I made it investable for them, and those folks that didn't make it big, that can really translate everything to business. So
Yeah, I appreciate
yeah.
you so much in doing that and dedicating your experience, your journey, your story, your skills, all those things to this, because at the end of the day, it starts to make the world a better place, starts to have people have that appreciation of those soft skills, those things that they've been able to do and accomplish, and realize, it's not the end of the journey. It's just sometimes, a lot of times, the very beginning of that. So absolutely appreciate that. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could be like an app, a book, or even a habit that you have, but what's something that makes you more effective and efficient?
Um, Yeah, that's great. Checklist, quick, easy. It's like making your bed in the morning. It just
Mm,
you take it to the neuroscience. The simplest things. I write down the simplest darn things. I
mhm.
do it with a cup of coffee in the morning. Um, so my routine, and look, I'm never going to claim I'm the best, but I've spoken with some incredible, like you. I've done deals with some incredible entrepreneurs, and I've dove into all the research. However, my routine, especially for a former athlete, it's this: get your butt up at 5 a.m., hit the gym if you can, right? If that works, you got to go beat your body up, and you got
Mhm.
to go get that. And there's a lot of data and science behind the benefit of that. So go get that. I go do a group fitness. Everyone, I invest in that. It's expensive, but you know what? I show up because it's group fitness, and the people are there, and I better be there. and I feel so
Mhm.
darn good. Then I come back, drink a cup of coffee, and I start writing a list. And it's the most simple things, you know. It could be sometimes it could be, go put my shoes away, not even business stuff. But every time you just check it off. And that
Yeah.
becomes a habit and it keeps going and going and going and going. And it's just like making your bed in the morning, right? So a lot of people champion that. I would say a checklist is number one.
Yeah, I love that, and you start to create that momentum. But the word that you said it really stuck with me is that those habits start to compound, and you start to see that it impacts you on that day, of course, that week, that month, that year, so on and so forth. It ends up becoming your lifetime because you've had that checklist, you stay true to that, and you've had that energy and the opportunity to be able to kind of see those things done.
Yeah, yeah. Look, we're all complex. We're all human. We're complex creatures. But at the end of the day, there are some very we've got a lot in common in the way just a checklist affects our brain and the way we do things. So um, yeah, that's universal, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really powerful when you start to realize that it's not the quote unquote major, huge things. It's sometimes the quote unquote small things that actually create big results and huge, impactful results. So absolutely love that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. And look, I'm the guy that's always way up here. I'm the 10,000 foot view. I'm always 100 steps ahead, and so that checklist helps me, but also that first hire, for a guy like me, is that person that fills that gap that can say, "Oh, I see, Jay. Okay, you want to get to 100. Okay, here we go," and they can back into it from zero, right? And they can go all the way down and create that process as a business person to get there. So that's critical for me in understanding, where I fit on the field, right? So, I may be quarterback, and but that person, I need a left tackle.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, and I love that. So, would you consider that to be a little bit more what I call a CEO nugget, which can be a word of wisdom or piece of advice, could be something from your book, but I like to say it might be something if you were to hop into a time machine, you might tell your younger business self or potentially your favorite client.
Be a servant leader.
Mm,
So if you're a CEO, lead from the back. It ain't about you, it's about your team. And humility and empathy will help get you there. And great book is Emotional Intelligence 2.0. It's a good
mm,
one, read it. But don't lead from the front. Don't lead from the front. This ain't Wolf of Wall Street. We don't need that. Lead from the back, and those are where the most successful CEOs are. And one of my favorite CEOs that built a company from zero to, I helped him do a deal I can't disclose, but it was over 250 employees. He said, I would write down every year everything, my list every day, and then I would hire for 50% of that every year. It was just a habit. Every
mm.
year I knew I was hiring someone for, I don't know what it was, but 50% of what I did, I'd give it to them so I can keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. So that was good advice as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to kind of understand that, and like you said, hire for that left tackle, that right tackle, that wide receiver is going to catch a pass, whatever it might be, is such a huge thing. Do you feel like that's part of like some of the soft skills that you kind of alluded to that these athletes don't realize maybe that they have or that can translate, and like being able to kind of understand some of that?
Yeah, I mean, as simple as teamwork, right? Like a lot of folks in the business world don't understand teamwork,
Mm,
right? That's to a lot of us athletes, that's like what? But it hits you like a brick, right? If you get into the situation where teamwork isn't good or whatnot, it'll hit you like a brick, and you're going to want to get out of it. So teamwork is huge, coachability, all those things. If I get into, we have 10 neuroscience based transferable skills, all based on neuroscience that we can drive to the brain in the book. And one of them I always like to say, because not a lot of people think about this, is high metacognition for athletes. And what that is, that's when you're playing. I was playing football. My coach taught me how to and would drill into my head, see the game tomorrow, Jay. I remember, like, my favorite game, and I talk about it a bit in the opening of the book, is opening up in Nebraska, which
mhm,
was incredible for me. And I played the game the night before in my head, you know.
mm.
And when you can translate that to business, and you've developed that muscle in your brain, now you understand that game of business. So you go to bed at night and you're thinking, okay, here's the next move, here's the next. So you play it before, and not everyone has that. Not everyone has
Yeah.
that. So teamwork, coachability, but they're in the book. But that metacognition one's really neat, and athletes have a higher rate of metacognition than non-athletes. So
Nice. Thanks for expanding on some of those things because I think that's huge to be able to again realize that we're looking for all the things we're always externally focused on, like what can I get, what can I do, and a lot of times we don't realize we have so many things that are already within. So I appreciate you sharing that. So, how would you define my absolute favorite question, the definition of what it means to be a CEO? Our goal is to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So, Jay, what does being a CEO mean to you?
Yeah. It means, I'll go back to it. It means leading from behind. It means seeing your team be successful, right? Um, and developing empathy and understanding who they are, what their goals are, and matching that with the goals and values of you and your company, um, and helping your team get there. And everyone from your C-suite all the way down to that new hire that's working his or her butt off. And CEO is just a title, but what it comes with is a lot of responsibility in our world to lead in the right way. And I've never championed those CEOs that it's all about them. It ain't about you. It's about everyone else. If we look at business, business, the way I view it is adding value to our world. And as a CEO, you have a great opportunity to help your team around you, create a great culture, give people time on this earth that they enjoy and is meaningful, towards achieving their own goals, but the common goals, as a unit. And that's what Coach Chris Salt, the Hall of Fame coach in Nevada, would say too. Look, do your 111th. That was 1 out of 11. 11 players on the field. Do your
Mm,
111th, and then we're all going to win, right? And then help that person beside you. So I like to think, externally versus internally. I think CEOs should think that way.
yeah, absolutely. I love that, and especially the 111th part and understanding. Like, I often say, if you run your own race, you can't lose. And I think that being so aware of what your 111th is, what is your race, what's the thing that you can do, so that you can help to empower the team, you can help to lead from behind, you can help to see that championship that you alluded to as well too come to fruition. And I think a lot of times Belichick said a lot of the Patriot way was doing your job, understanding exactly what that is and what that looks like. It's not that you're doing it by yourself, but you're aware of like what you need to do to help support the team so that, at the end of the day, you can get that championship.
Yeah, yeah. You're look at you're building puzzles, right? So everyone has a unique skill set and value in a business. I don't care who it is, right? Your job as a CEO is to understand that and put the puzzle together, right? And then
Mm,
keep building on that puzzle and find value and where folks are brilliant, where others aren't and where their value lies. So yeah.
yeah. Absolutely. And sometimes one of the first things you can do is make sure you understand what your value is. So that's why, again, I love that you have been able to kind of bring that to life. So, Jay, truly appreciate that definition. Of course, I appreciate your time even more. So, what I wanted to do now is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional that you can let our readers and listeners know. And of course, how best people can get a hold of you, find out about all the awesome things you're working on, and of course, get a copy of that book.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I appreciate you for having me and love everything you do. Um, yeah, I think this. I think for the grand world, if you weren't an athlete, um, I would love nothing more. What I want the folks out there to understand is this is a darn good education that can benefit communities, businesses, and then folks like that. And for the big athletes that made it big, I would say, investing in real estate's great and all these other, secure mechanisms. But if you want to, also have a little bit of a risk adverse environment, get in this game and you can put some sweat into it and it's fun. You're in the game of business again and you're a part of the team. So successcoach.com, you can go there, put in your email and you get more information about our program, what we do. And then the book was launched on April 2nd, and it's Simon and Schuster, Amazon. It's called After the Game by Jay Dixon, and feel free to pick up a copy and let me know what you think. I just really hope it helps people. That's my goal.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think it will. So I appreciate you so much and sharing so much of your journey. And of course, to make it even easier, we're gonna have the links and information in the show notes as well too, so that everybody can follow up with you. But Jay, truly appreciate your time and your everything that you're doing, because I think so many times we can not give ourselves credit and give ourselves awareness of what we've been able to accomplish, those soft skills, those things that we've been able to do that do translate. So I appreciate you translating that, making that aware for people in so many different ways, and how you have your why making an impact on the world. So thank you so much, my friend, and I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. That's fun.